Good day, everyone, especially to our professor, Dr. Meldreto B. Valles, to my classmates in EDR 103 Psychology of Reading. I am Michelle Pidikia, your discussant for today. I was assigned to discuss to you the schema theory and reading under Module 4, Reading as Comprehension. What is a schema? As what we have learned from the previous topic, schema defined as the building block of cognition or knowledge. A schema is everything that we know and have experienced in our life. It is the background of prior knowledge that a reader brings to the text. The concept of schema is important to an interactive definition of reading. A schema theory postulates that the spoken or written text does not in itself carry meaning. Instead, meaning is created by using previously acquired knowledge or schemata. The theory specifies how prior knowledge in the reader's memory interacts with and shapes incoming information from the text, and how this knowledge must be organized to support this interaction. Now, let us take a look at this figure. The first one is the reader, and the second one is the author, which is represented by text, which bring his own set of schemata to the reading process. The degree of comprehension achieved by the readers is greatly influenced by the degree to which the readers and the text schemata match. Three types of schemata are crucial for comprehension to take place. As you can see, the figure is about the result of interaction between readers and text schemata. So, under the reader, there are types of prior knowledge stored in reader's memory. These are the following. First is the script knowledge, which is the knowledge and belief about the word derived from repeated experiences with people, places, events, situation in day-to-day living. The second one is knowledge about language, and the categories are the graphophonic information, syntactic information, semantic information, pragmatic, and the last one is the knowledge of text structure, which have two basic levels of text structure, the text cohesion and the general text structure of different types of text. While under the text or the text schemata are the content information, which are the subject matter or the concept and the theme. The linguistic feature under of it is the spelling patterns or written convention, the language structure, vocabulary or word meanings, language function or context in which language is used, and the last one is cohesive and general text structure, which is the story grammar, the narrative, and the top-level structure or exposition. So when the prior knowledge stored in reader's memory have an interaction with the text schemata, the outcome of this is comprehension. The readers will understand and remember the text that he or she read. So there are three types of schemata in reading. The first one is the script knowledge. The second one is the knowledge about language. And the third one is the knowledge of text structure. Okay, now let us first discuss what is a script knowledge. As what I have said a while ago, script knowledge refers to mundane, everyday information stored in memory. It is derived from repeated experiences with people, places, events, situations in day-to-day living. Your knowledge of what happens in schools, shopping centers, bus terminals, restaurants, basketball games, and the likes are examples of script knowledge. Other kinds of script refer to procedures and ways of doing things. Obviously, people who share the same culture acquire a large number of common script knowledge. A script knowledge is a powerful resource of understanding text, especially narrative material. Most stories are filled with dialogues and events with meanings that are not explicitly stated by the author. Authors assumes that readers often have the script knowledge necessary to fill in the missing details on their own. Script knowledge help readers to predict, infer, and selectively sample information in narrative material without sacrificing anything more than minor bits of information. Have you noticed that even young reader can often answer a question on reading test without actually reading the passage from which the question were derived? They do this by using their script knowledge. Okay, now let's go to the knowledge about language. So in Module 3, you examine three types of linguistic information or knowledge. So these are graphophonic, syntactic, and semantic. So these categories of schemata govern the use and sequence of sounds, denotative, connotative, and figurative word meanings in sentences and structural features such as word, order, referential relationship, etc. So the three systems of language depend on the context in which they occur for their rules and relationship to each other. The ways in which we use language to express and understand meanings relate to how language is used in social setting, referred to as the pragmatic system. So, language cannot exist outside of a context. In some contexts, people will pronounce word differently, use different dialects, or use a second language. In some contexts, people may take control of the communication flow. For example, parents use language differently than their children. When people address their parents, their language will not be the same as when they are talking to their kids. Similarly, the way teachers use language with their students is different from the way they use language with their colleagues. Example, when they sit in seniors or in meetings. Okay, now let's go to the knowledge of text structure. So text structure refers to the aspect of text or the complete messages that signal how the content is related. There are two basic levels of text structure. Number one is cohesion, and number two is the general structure used to organize the major and minor parts of a message within a particular genre. There is cohesion in a text when the interpretation of some element in it is dependent on the interpretation of another. So, for example, Let us read this passage and answer the question following it. So, are you ready, classmates? Okay, let us read the passage. Helen felt something rub against her leg. She reached down and felt soft fur. The furry thing had a thumping heart and seemed to vibrate as Helen stroked it. It was Polly. So now, classmates, we're going to answer the questions. Are you ready? Okay. So the first question says, to whom does her here refer in sentence number 1? So in sentence number 1, let's go back to the passage. Helen felt something rub against her leg. So to whom does the word here refer to? Okay, very good. The word here refer to Helen. So let's go to the next one. So to whom does the word she refer to in the sentence number 2? So in sentence number 2, let us go back to the passage. She reached down and felt a soft fur. So the word she also referred to Helen. Very good. So let's go to the last one. To whom does the word it refer to? So sentence number 4, it was Polly. So the word it referred to Polly. Okay, very good. So classmates, can you guess what is Polly? So I guess Polly is a dog because of the description that it has a furry thing. It is a furry thing and a thumping heart. So classmates, this kind of text or passage is a cohesion. Cohesion wherein there is the presence of structure that signal referential relationship among sentences and lead to the integration of meaning within the entire text. In the preceding example, the referential relationship between nouns and pronouns enable the reader to relate the statement to each other. So now let's go to text structure in narration and exposition. So general text structure used in narrative and expository text tend to be different. Exposition refers to text written to explicitly explain or teach something, while narration refers to text written to involve the readers in series of images, events, dialogue, or a combination of these, in order to entertain readers and get them to imagine. Exposition relies on the relationship of superordinate and subordinate topics, major and minor ideas and patterns of arguments of reference, while narration relies on story grammar and metaphor patterns to organize and relate meaning. So for our further understanding, I will show you some example of narration and exposition structure, text structure. So classmates, this is the narrative text structure or the story grammar. So before I discuss the parts of the narrative text structure, allow me to read to you a story, example of a narrative text structure. So entitled The Hare and the Tortoise. So once upon a time in a forest, There was a hare who was very proud of his speed. One day, the hare said to the other animals, "I challenge anyone here to race with me." The tortoise said quietly, "I accept the challenge." So, a course was fixed and a start was made. The hare darted almost out of sight at once. Soon, however, he saw that the tortoise was very far behind. He decided to stop and lie down for a nap. Meanwhile, the tortoise plodded on and plodded on. When the hare awoke from his nap, he saw the tortoise nearing the finish line. He ran as fast as he could, but he could not run up in time to save the race. The tortoise was very pleased. He said, "Slow but sure wins the race." From Hermosa, 1988. So, this kind of story is a narrative text structure where there is a setting which introduces characters and provides background. Next is the initiating events where it begins the episode. And then the internal response, the decision, wherein the tortoise accepts the challenge, and the attempt, a try at reaching a goal. Next is the consequences, the outcome, and the reaction, which is the character's response. So now let's go to expository text structure. So it is about computers. I have here a text written about computers, and I will going to read it to you, classmates. So computers. Computers are one of the most incredible inventions of this century, and they have completely altered our daily lives. They help us solve problems in faster and more efficient ways than were ever thought possible. For instance, without computers, there would be no space exploration. Scientists use computers to control instruments, analyze data, and help them conduct research. In medicine, doctors use computers to help analyze results and diagnose illnesses. As a result, computers help doctors save thousands of lives. In education, computers are used to teach students foreign languages, mathematics, science, and many other subjects. Students are tutored and drilled while they work on the computer. The computer can even carry on a dialogue with a student. Okay, so the first component of this expository text structure is the superordinate information, wherein it says that computers have changed our lives in many ways, helping us solve problems faster and more efficiently. So the subordinate information is that computers in space exploration, computers in medicine, computers in education, and the supporting details in using computers in exploration. It controls instruments, analyze data, conduct research, while in medicines, it analyzes test, result, diagnose, illness, and computer in education, foreign languages, mathematics, science, etc. Now let's go to the knowledge of text structure, wherein it plays a significant role in reading comprehension. Text structure helps the reader constructing and reconstructing the relationship among the ideas and information in the text. The reader is therefore able to follow and weave together the author's intended meaning. Furthermore, when the reader does not know much about the topic, he can actively use text structure to make inferences about the text and achieve adequate comprehension. It appears that young children are more familiar with narrative than expository structure. This may be the reason why narrative material is the one extensively used in beginning reading text. The three types of knowledge, script knowledge, knowledge about language, and knowledge of text structure, must be actively used by a reader to bridge the gap between what is already known and what is new information. So this may be used in different combination by the reader to make sense out of text. So we will have a clearer grasp of the combined use of this structure when we do the next activity.
Go to the activity. So I'm going to read to you a passage and then try to observe the word content on the passage. Okay, let's start. The kingdom of chaos. Once in the land of serenity, there ruled a king called Chaos. The king wanted to be liked by all his people. So one day, the benevolent despot decided that no one in the country would be responsible for anything. All of the workers rested their daily labors. Bless Chaos, they exclaimed. Now, the lawmakers were very wise, but as wise as they were, they decided that the best form of government was none at all. As time went on, the kingdom of chaos began to split, and at the same time, and it looked like that. Okay, as we read the passage, we were slowed down a bit by the gradual substitution of other letters for the vowel sounds, but I am sure you were able to make sense out of the passage. Okay, now let's answer the following question. Number one question. Okay, let's answer the following question. Number one question, what is the passage about? The passage is about kingdom that became very chaotic and disorderly because nobody worked and took responsibility for anything. Okay, question number two. What kind of information or prior knowledge or textual did you use to be able to understand the passage? So comprehension of the passage is possible because the reader uses the following types of information. First is the graphophonic information. So at first, the reader might be slowed down by the substitution of the vowel letters, like the letter E becomes letter X, and the letter A becomes letter Z, the letter I becomes letter V, and the letter O becomes letter Q. So, but once he catches on to the trick, he read faster. So next is the syntactic information. So the reader does not have to look closely at each word because familiar phrases could readily be predicted. Example, as time went on, as wise as they were, split at the same. Okay. The next is semantic information. Knowledge of figurative language. Example, split at the same endpoints or chaos, chaos for chaos aids the reader in arriving at the main idea of the passage. So next is the knowledge of text structure. The passage has the structure of a fable. If the reader realizes this, then he would be more likely to infer that the last part is a kind of clincher, much like the moral that you find at the end of a fable, and is used by the author to demonstrate the chaotic nature of things. In this case, the reader will not even try to decode this part because he knows it is undecipherable. The preceding exercise illustrates that reading is an interactive process. To make sense of the kingdom of chaos, note that you simultaneously use several sources of information, both textual and prior knowledge. The major sources of redundancy were top and both bottom-up and top-down processes were used. Script knowledge, knowledge about language, and knowledge of text structure were used integratively in the comprehension process. Okay, we're, we're done on the kingdom of chaos. Now let's have another activity. Please read the passage and identify and explain example for each of the three different types of prior knowledge a reader will use to understand it. Okay, let's begin. Did you ever wonder how the moon affects bodies of water on Earth? The moon's gravitational pull lifts the sea like a wave. The wave rises slowly because it is a very long moving wave. The wave's motion reaches to the bottom of the sea and to the shoreline. This forward and backward moving wave is the tide. So the moon pull accounts for both high tides and low tides. The moon pulls hardest on the part of the earth nearest it, lifting the water on that part of the earth. The water bulges out toward the moon. Where the bulge is greatest, it is known as high tide. When the moon is on the horizon and the bulge is lowest, it is low or ebb tide. The tide is commonly used symbol of life, for it continues to go in and out without stopping. From Paterno and Hermosa, 1990. So, here are some prior knowledge a reader needs to understand the selection on what causes high tide. So, under script knowledge, the concept of the gravity and gravitational pull, and the schemata about high tides and low tides. Next is the knowledge about language, wherein the pronunciation and meanings of such word and expression as gravity, gravitational pull, horizon accounts for, and the referential relationship, the word order, the concept of symbolism. And next is the knowledge about language. Under knowledge about language is the cohesive devices, example, word that signal cause and affect, or because, accounts for, when, etc. And the top level structure, the cause effect pattern. As I mentioned earlier, schemata are recognition devices, the processing of which is aimed at evaluating their goodness of fit to the data being processed. The idea is similar to the predicting something, confirming strategies of Goodman that we discussed in Module 3. Simply put, it means finding out whether one's interpretation is substantiated by text information. Okay, this idea will be made clearer through the next activity. Okay, now classmates, let's have another activity. I'm going to read to you a passage and then we're going to complete the sentence below and try to evaluate the goodness of fit of each schemata. So Rocky slowly got up from the mat, planning his escape. He hesitated a moment and thought. Things were not going well. What bothered him most was being held, especially since the charge against him had been weak. He considered his present situation. The lock that held him was strong, but he thought he could break it. He knew, however, that his timing would have to be perfect. Rocky was aware that it was because of his early roughness that he had been penalized so severely, much too severely from his point of view. The situation was becoming frustrating. The pressure had been grinding on him for too long. He was being ridden unmercifully. Rocky was getting angry now. He felt that he was ready to make his move. He knew that his success or failure would depend on what he did in the next few seconds. So, as we read text close from the story suggest possible interpretation that are then evaluated against the successive sentences of story until finally a consistent interpretation is discovered. So among the schema activated by different readers when reading the Rocky passage, which are substantiated by text information. This can be done by examining whether each sentence in the passage matches the interpretation. So there are four different interpretations in this manner. Okay, let's go to the table 421. Okay, classmates, now let's go to the interpretation of the schema. Okay, there are four schema activated. The convict schema, horse schema, boxing schema, and wrestling schema. So under sentence number 1, Rocky slowly got from the mat, planning to escape. Under a convict schema, check. Maybe because mat is something to sleep on, and Rocky might escape from jail. So in under horse schema, so question mark. Why? Because though horses lie on mats, is Rocky a personified character? And in boxing schema, question mark also. Is there a mat in a boxing ring? Under wrestling schema, check. Because wrestling is done on a mat. Maybe Rocky is trying to escape from an opponent hold. So under sentence number 2, he hesitated a moment and thought. So under convict schema, check. Horse schema, check. 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 So things were not going well. Check because it may be fit on all the schema. So under sentence number 4, what bothered him most was being held, especially since the charge against him had been weak. So under convex schema, what is the interpretation? Okay, check because being held means being imprisoned. Charge relate to offense Rocky might have done. Okay, on horse schema, question mark, because what charges may be labeled at a horse being held in in a cell or being held by someone. Okay, under boxing schema, check. Being held by opponent, charges means jabs and punches by opponent. Under wrestling schema, check. As being held by opponent, wrestling charges made by opponent. Okay, let's go to number 5. He considered his present situation. Okay, this sentence fit in all the schema. So, sentence number 6. The luck that healed him was strong, but he thought he break it. So, under convex schema, check. Why? Luck is padlock upsell. And under horse schema, question. Luck is padlock or someone's stronghold. So, do it fit on the horse? I don't think so. Okay. Under boxing schema, check. Check. Because luck is opponent's hold. Okay. Under wrestling schema, also check. Luck is opponent's hold. Okay. Under sentence number 7, he knew, however, that his timing would have to be perfect. So, under convex schema, check. Perhaps at night or when guards relax their watch. Okay. In horse schema, question mark. When no one's watching or when persons relax his hold. So under boxing schema, check. When opponents weakens or relaxes his hold. Under wrestling schema, also check. So let's go to sentence number 8. Rocky was aware that it was because of his early roughness that he has been penalized so severely, much too severely from his point of view. So check. Under horse schema, question mark. Maybe he is kind of wild. Maybe he hurt somebody. Could that horse do that? Okay. Boxing schema. Early roughness refers to foul moves resulting in demerits. Okay, check. The wrestling schema, check. So let's go to sentence number 9. The situation was becoming frustrating. The pressure had been grinding on him for so long. So check. Frustrated at being in jail. Under horse schema, question mark. Frustrated at being locked in or being in someone's hold. Under boxing schema, question mark. And under wrestling schema, check. Pressure in being held by opponent, natural in a wrestling match. So let's go to the sentence number 10. He was being ridden unmercifully. So under convex schema, check. Horse schema, boxing schema, question mark. Either literal or figurative meaning does not fit. So under wrestling schema, check. Okay. So now let's go to sentence number 11. Rocky was getting angry. So under convex schema, check. Also in horse schema and in boxing and wrestling schema. So sentence number 12, he felt that he was ready to make his move. Also check. Check. On the last sentence, sentence number 13, he knew that his success or failure would depend on what he did for the next few seconds. So, all of this is fit to the fourth schema. So, note that both the convex schema and the wrestling schema are substantiated by all the details in the passage. We might say the fit of either schema is very good indeed. Note too that the fit of both the boxing schema and the horse schema are quite constrained. For instance, how does the object mat fit into either schema? We knew from prior now experience that there are no mats in a boxing ring, and horses are more likely to lie on hay than on a mat. Being ridden unmercifully may fit the horse schema, but not the boxer schema. What charges might be leveled against a horse? The horse schema has to be substantiated further by elements of fantasy. A horse that thinks like a human, and the reference to this is not clear. So either Rocky is a convict planning to escape from prison, or Rocky is a wrestler trying to free himself from an opponent lock, is therefore an excellent interpretation of the given passage. So the result of this interpretation, or in this experiment, it is said that 95% of the respondents says that a convict planning to escape from prison. So Rocky, according to the interpretation, 95%, Rocky is a convict planning to escape from prison. So the other percent, the rest percentage is an animal, maybe a horse that is being maltreated, and other the boxing match or a wrestling match. Okay, sir, classmates, that ends my report. Thank you for listening.